I'm Nick Best and I'm Managing Director here at Astranti, and I've recorded over 10 hours of video to guide you to show you what to do to pass the Strategic Case Study exam. And this is just one short clip. This particular clip focuses on the pass mark and why it is this sort of strange out of 150 pass mark. It explains a little bit about that to you, and also tells you a little bit about the technical, business, leadership and people competencies, how those are split in the case study exam, and what you need to do in order to show the examiner that you've passed under each of those competencies. So I'll leave you with the sample. Marking the strategic case study. So, when we're marking the strategic case study, it's worth being aware there's a 60% pass mark. You've got to score quite highly. Now do be aware, actually, when you get your final result, CIMA will give this out of 150. Now, and they give a mark of 80 out of 150, which for me is very confusing because that's actually about 53%. Which seems a little bit odd. Why is the pass mark 60%, yet the final result they give you is actually you've got to get 53%? Very strange. It basically, the trick to the way CIMA do it is that everything is marked out of 100. Your marker will mark it out of 100. They will be aiming to give you around about 60 marks for you to pass. And that's what you need to be thinking about 99% of the time. The only thing is that what CIMA then do is they have to equate the 5 different variants, and they have their own system for doing this, for making it fair, and then basically that system results in a mark out of 150 with 80 being the pass mark, where 80 would be equivalent to the 60% when it's marked out of 100. Okay, so the only thing for you to remember really about the 80 out of 150 is simply that that's what you get in your final result. As far as you preparing for the exam, you need to be thinking around a 60% pass mark, which is what CIMA have told us that this is, and you need to be thinking about getting 60 marks, 60 clear points when you're writing your script out, because that is likely to equate to the pass. Of course, it could be that you've got a slightly easy exam and you needed to get a slightly higher percentage in your exam, or you had a slightly harder exam and therefore you needed a slightly lower percentage to pass, because each variant will be adjusted. But your target as an average script is 60%. Now, there are 4 key elements, 4 key criteria which you must pass. Each of them is 25% of the exam. The first of these is technical skills, which covers mostly knowledge from P3 and F3, bringing in your financial skills, your risk management skills, your analysis of financing and funding into the game. And you will find that there is normally 2 sub-requirements, little requirements that relate to that area, as actually we find on all 4 of these at the strategic level. The next is business skills. Now this tests business acumen. This is about applying your skills to the scenario, to the strategy, to the business. Application to the scenario is key here. Also, your E3 strategic skills come into this as well. Bringing in your analysis of the pre-scene and the industry in order to ensure that you're giving good, solid business advice. The next is people skills. People skills covers issues such as influence and communication, and considering all the different stakeholders. Ethics is really important under people skills as well, and you regularly see ethics questions, and all the ethics marks always go under the people skills criteria as well. And so that's the people skills side of things. Do watch out on the people skills side, because some of your knowledge from some of your earlier papers can come into this, and actually they come into the leadership skills as well. Leadership, I should say, relates to issues such as change management, motivation, making clear recommendations, showing a strong, bold approach in your report to make good, solid advice. Okay, but those last 2 actually start to use some theory from some of your earlier subjects, most particularly E2, because of course people skills leads to sort of team and team management. So models such as Tuckman team formation come in quite useful there. And under leadership skills, one of the key areas is motivation, so Maslow and Hertzberg motivation theories can be used. Of course, you can answer these sections perfectly well really without any theory. It's worth making the overriding point that theory is not a key element of passing this exam. You can use theories where they are relevant, but it's that relevance that is important. The examiner really does not like people just using this theory here, that theory there, if they're not relevant. And actually, an answer with no theory in it at all can score very, very highly as long as it's very practical, as long as it's very focused on answering the specific requirement. One other thing worth bearing in mind here is that you need to get a reasonable number of marks under each of those 4 criteria. Basically, although there's an overall 60% pass mark, you need a third of your marks coming, you need to get a third of the marks in each of the criteria. So where it's 25% here, that means you need to get about 8 marks under each of those criteria. So let's say you've got over 60% pass mark, and you've done really well, you've got, let's say, 65%, but you've got all your marks under technical, business and people skills, and you happen to do badly under the sections allocated to leadership skills, and you only got 5 marks for leadership skills, you would then fail the whole exam. You need a third of the marks, third of the percentages, which equates to about 8 marks for each of those 4 criteria. And the key, therefore, for you is to ensure you get balance across all the requirements. Each of the requirements in the exam is allocated to a specific one of these criteria. So as long as you do all of them reasonably well and you don't miss any out, then you will, well, you should get up to 8 marks in each. Okay, but what you can't afford to do is do extremely well in some and not very well in others. The reason being is that you will end up with, well, I just didn't do 2 requirements. They both happen to be on leadership skills, and therefore I failed the whole exam because I didn't get any leadership skills marks. Okay, so balance is really key. Balance throughout each of the requirements means balance across each of those 4 criteria, which means that you will pass each of the criteria, and you will also get the 60% pass mark as well. So this is just one small section from over 10 hours of video that I've got for you to really help you focus on passing the exam. And it's not just me and my view. What I've also got are a number of videos where we actually look at what the examiner is saying about the exam. My goal is to take my 10 years of experience seeing thousands of scripts and helping actually thousands of students to pass this exam and combine that with what the examiner is saying and all her experience in order to give you a complete guide to what you need to do to pass. I've actually got an analysis of past post-exam guides that we get at the end of each exam from the examiner to give you a guide there, and also from the examiner we've got a script that a student did in a real exam, and the examiner goes through it and says, well, this is what I like and this is what I would do differently, this is how it could be improved. We've also got an analysis of the examiner's talk at the CIMA conference as well. What did she say then about what it takes to pass? So we combine all her ideas with all my experience, hopefully to get you what you need to pass the Strategic Case Study exam. You'll find full details on the website at www.astranti.com. Just look in the Strategic Case Study section.